As a business owner and a leader, no doubt that you've experienced the closing in feeling of global competition knocking on your door. It feels like the world is getting smaller, but actually the trend that I've observed is that the world is widening. Now, the term widening is one of the 4 global trends that I unpack in my white paper titled Redefining Business Significance in a Wise World. WISE is an acronym for the 4 trends. It starts with widening, and then it goes into twining, surprising, and escalating that make that acronym WISE. Now, these trends are causing constant change in the world. Some people see challenges in change, other people see opportunities. And so you can either become a victim of change or a victor amid change. And in this video, I'll explain exactly what widening means, the implications it has on you and your business, and how you can adapt and leverage this trend so you can become a victor of the change around us. Now, 3 things are widening: our world, our competition, and paradox. Regarding our world, our global village is steadily expanding thanks to escalating technology breakthroughs. Current and evolving technologies are connecting us in new ways. And just consider what happens in 60 seconds, so that's 1 minute on the internet. Here's what happens. 9,132 connections are made on LinkedIn. 1.4 million people are scrolling Facebook. 500 hours of content is loaded on YouTube. 414,000 apps are downloaded. 700,000 Instagram stories shared. 200,000 people are tweeting. 2 million swipes happened on Tinder. Not from me, I'm married. But 69 million WhatsApp messages are sent. 3.4 million Snapchat snaps are created. 200 million emails are sent. All of that just happened in the time it took me to say it. And 10 times that will happen in the next 10 minutes. It really is almost incomprehensible. And then we've got future technologies like the metaverse. This means that our world will continue widening at a rapid rate. Future technologies are not in the distant future. They're already on our doorstep, and businesses are already preparing. For instance, Nike has already filed multiple trademarks and patents to have its logo used in the form of virtual footwear, clothing, virtual headwear, other virtual products, and apparel. Now, here's an important thing to comprehend. A widening world catalyzes widening competition. Classic examples like Apple and Uber illustrate how companies in one industry can apply their core competencies on a wider spectrum to dominate entirely new and different industries. Now, Apple was not originally in the mobile phones or music industries. They widened over time. Uber was not a taxi company. They were a technology company that used their competency to connect people with drivers. And today they've widened their services into the food industry with Uber Eats, into the courier industry with Uber Collect. Now, I mentioned Nike earlier. Let me describe a timeline that shows just how masterful and consistent they've been at widening. So in 1966 was their first retail store selling shoes. In 74, they went into athletic clothing, and so they were widening into apparel. In the 80s, they got into leisure shoes. And in 88, they acquired a company called Cole Haan, widening into high-end retail. They did like dress shoes and stuff. In 94, they acquired CanStar Sports, getting into sporting equipment. In 98, they established Nike Golf, widening into that specific sport. In 1999, they were the first to launch the e-commerce website a year before their competitors. In 2002, they acquired Hurley, widening into the youth lifestyle market. In 2003, into the sport tech accessories business. In 2004, they acquired Starter, widening into teen clothing. And in 2017, they acquired an augmented reality app called Sneakers, getting into digital tech. In 2021, they submitted trademarks for logos, like I mentioned, widening into Web 3.0. And also in 2021, they acquired Artifact, which was widening into the metaverse. Now, after acquiring Artifact Studios, which is a virtual sneakers and collectibles startup, Nike President and CEO John Donahoe said in a statement that the deal accelerates Nike's digital transformation and allows us to serve athletes and creators at the intersection of sports, creativity, gaming, and culture. Notice how Nike's reach continues to widen. Sport, creativity, e-gaming, right? So that's also esports and that kind of stuff, and culture. And so let me paint a picture of what that looks like in terms of who will suddenly have Nike as a competitor that they didn't have before. I'm gonna get a little bit technical now, by the way, which you'll enjoy if you've been following the progress of Web 3.0, but if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you'll still have your mind blown by the high level concept of what I'm gonna share with you. So of course you're familiar with cryptocurrencies, right? Now these coins or tokens are stored on what's called the blockchain. The blockchain is a system in which a record of transactions made are maintained across many different computers that are linked in a peer-to-peer network. In other words, there is a ledger stored on every computer connected to the blockchain, including yours if you're using it, which defines who owns what in the ledger, right? This mechanism of defining and securing ownership has been expanding beyond just digital currencies. No doubt you've heard of things like NFTs, which, simplified for the sake of the explanation here, and the picture that I'm painting, NFTs allows you to own something digital in a way that can be verified and made exclusive to you. So hold that in the back of your mind. Now, think about esports and online gaming. In 2021, global gaming audiences spent an approximate $60 billion on additional in-game content. In 2025, the market value of in-game purchases is projected to surpass $74.4 billion. Now, by the way, in-game purchases refer to items that a player can buy and use within the virtual world of the game to improve things like their character or enhance the playing experience. Right, so now you know about the blockchain, which enables you to be the sole verified owner of a digital asset, and you know about in-game purchases, which is already a $60 billion plus industry. Now, these technologies are merging, and as the blockchain becomes built into more games, it means that your character or your avatar in your favorite game can be adorned with the verified digital assets like a high-end, one-of-a-kind branded outfit, which you can uniquely own for your avatar and which cannot be simply copied and pasted by anyone else in the metaverse or in the game. All right, so now do you see why Nike has trademarked the use of their logo for digital items and why they're acquiring companies like Artifact who specialize in creating virtual sneakers and collectibles? Makes sense, right? And so as the metaverse becomes more established, we'll ultimately have different avatars for different ways that we show up in the metaverse. We'll have an avatar for use for our online business meetings, which might be a little bit more formal, obviously depending on what your industry is. We may have like a really funky one for when we were playing games, like a fantasy one. So today, the virtual goods that somebody receives in the form of in-game purchases is generally created by the game's producers, which today is making those game producers a ton of money, right? Billions. But tomorrow, when games connect to the metaverse, users may prefer to stick to the Nike virtual branded sneakers that their spouse bought them for their birthday. And so who would have imagined that in a few short years, esports and online gaming producing companies will have Nike to contend with in terms of being a competitor for apparel and clothing of their avatars. Of course, this widening of the world and also of competition also provides opportunities to leverage these changes by things like collaboration. And these collaborations will create even more fierce competition because now you're going to be up against collaborators. So this is just one example indicative of a widening world. And just like the World Wide Web first widened the world when it became available to the public, and how social media further expanded our connectivity and reach, so too will Web 3.0, which includes things like the blockchain and the metaverse, and all these things that are right here on our doorstep. As companies rethink how they use access to new channels and access new customers, offer new product sets, leverage new types of supply chains, or even entirely new industries, it's more than likely that your next fierce competitor will emerge from a surprising place. So, as a business owner or somebody who's leading in the business, what can you do today to avoid becoming a victim of this change and rather be a victor of the change? Well, the first is to recognize that our rapidly widening ecosystems brings to light a widening range of paradox for companies and you as a leader to consider. For example, do you focus on long-term or short-term, change or stability, growth or consolidation, innovation or efficiency? The list goes on. And for these types of questions, a common mistake that leaders make is to think that they must choose between one or the other. Because today's world demands the ability to focus on two conflicting endeavors simultaneously. You do this by widening your mindset to see these types of problems as two polarities. Both are valid and you need to inevitably be able to oscillate between two poles. Soon, I'll create a video describing a fantastic methodology to work with polarities. But for now, the important part is to ask yourself the right questions. Questions like, how is the world widening in our context? How can we adapt to and leverage these changes? And what other changes are happening in the world which could impact our ability to adapt to or leverage the widening of the world? So a few examples of other changes would be the 4 WISE trends. So obviously WISE being the acronym, widening is the first one, which we're covering in this video, but there are the other trends like intertwining, surprising, and escalating that are creating changes that impact your ability to leverage and adapt to widening. So if you want to read more about those, they're in my white paper, and I've also recorded some videos where I'm unpacking each of those trends. So I recommend that you check those out as well. And then of course, a really important question for you to ask yourself is, how do we as a company remain significant in this WISE world? I recommend that you check out my significant influence model to help to answer that. It's also in the white paper, and I've created a video. Something else that you can take right now is to share this video with your colleagues so that you can have a discussion around it, and visit my other resources which will help you as a business owner and a leader to retain significance or gain significance in the first place, even amid constant change in the world. On this page, I'll also leave some information in case you want to contact my team if you want me to work personally with you and your team. You can look out for that. And also my next video coming out, it will be a deep dive into one of the other 4 WISE trends, namely the trend of intertwining. And this is a really important trend and characteristic of the world to understand if you want to avoid being surprised by unintended consequences and domino effects that could harm your business. So make sure to watch that video when it comes out next week. If you found this video helpful, then don't leave before subscribing so I can continue to serve you. And as always, I invite you to connect with me on your favorite social media platform if you haven't already. Connect with me by leaving a comment in the comment section of any of the daily material that I post. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Finally, thank you for your interest in leadership and in influence. From me, Gilan, your coach and friend, I'll see you soon.